Hello, and welcome to the day.
Thank you for spending your time with us.
I'm Jake.
I'm Joel. Welcome back to another episode of Jake and Joel Are Magic. Jake, what is the date?
The date is November 4th, 2019.
We had our first B&R announcement for Pioneer well after lunch, if you were keeping up with the memes on Twitter. Real quick, before we discuss what happened today, if you wouldn't mind hitting like and subscribe down below, only if you're logged in, though.
Yep, only if you're logged in. If you're here to hang out, we're not going to make you do work. I don't know what time you're watching this, but you're probably watching it during some time that you value, and we do value your time.
That's exactly right. Let's talk about Pioneer. So I'm just going to start by showing off my stack of Leyline of Abundances that are no longer legal and or gaining value. Today, they announced that Leyline of Abundance, Felidar Guardian, and Jake, Oath of Nissa, I'm so sorry, buddy, have been banned in Pioneer. Jake, what is your initial reaction to this?
Dude, the cat I expected.
Sure.
When I learned that Leyline was crapping out a turn 3 Ulamog, I was like, okay, I get it.
Yep.
But Oath of Nissa actually really threw me off, and I actually didn't buy these in response to Pioneer. These were actually bought in response to War of the Spark.
Yep.
So Pioneer, for a very short window of time, was like this big government bailout for me. It was like, yeah, dude, go ahead, make your money back on those War of the Spark specs that you made. And honestly, I've just been busy, and I didn't think Oath of Nissa was going to get hit with a ban. It kind of shows us, in my opinion, that they're not banning the power, and instead they're banning the enablers.
Well, this is, exactly right. Let's start at Felidar Guardian. Felidar Guardian is an obvious ban for a couple of reasons for me. It's an infinite combo. They don't like infinite combos. It is a creature and not a planeswalker. They love their planeswalkers. Their planeswalkers are sacred to them. Look at Oko right now. We're shooting this. If you're watching this in the future, and Oko has been obviously banned by now, it wasn't at this time. They love their planeswalkers. They sell boxes of booster packs, which is, at the end of the day, what Hasbro wants to do. So it makes sense. I have seen a lot of reaction to this. Felidar Guardian is a creature that people actually liked building into decks, and they would have rather Saheeli been banned, because that was the other part of the enabler, and Saheeli doesn't build itself naturally into a lot of decks. However, it makes a lot of sense that they're going to ban the creature and not the planeswalker, obviously, right?
And from a financial standpoint, let's go ahead and take a look at this. You have a group of people that are speccing on a format. They're buying into cards. They're buying into archetypes and decks that they want to play. It makes sense to kind of, quench the outrage ahead of time, nip it in the bud, to ban the thing that's only a few bucks, and instead, let people keep their card that most likely they spent $10 to $15 on.
Yeah, it shows me that from the outset, they were like, well, obviously this is going to have to get the same ban that it received when it was in Standard. But you know what? Let's just make it a completely free, open playing field for a couple of weeks. Let's see what they can come up with. And the cat did not survive.
No, the cat didn't survive, and I think that 90% of people or more probably knew that the cat wouldn't survive. It's a really uninteractive thing, and when you have cards like Teferi Time Raveler that are shutting down any possibility of reacting to it, the cat had to go.
Yeah,
because the cat is not Teferi, the cat is not Saheeli,
yeah,
the cat is
the cat. Don't come back. Let's move next, because I think you're going to have a lot to say about Oath of Nissa. Let's move next to Leyline of Abundance. Leyline of Abundance is a card that I bought into when it was less than $2, and it will go back down to less than $2 and forever stay there. Because
maybe.
Dude, I mean, this is one of the cards that, stereotypically when you see cards that enable mana doubling or any kind of mana advantage hyper ramp strategies.
Yeah, you kind of got to look at that with a magnifying glass. You got to be like, well, yeah.
Exactly. I didn't go too hard into it. As you can see, it's only about 8 copies. I think 8 to 12 copies here. But I took a gamble. And this is kind of the finance gamble with Pioneer. They will be announcing B&R every Monday until further notice. That does not mean that they're going to ban something every Monday, but they are going to update the format every Monday. And from a finance perspective, that has to be in the back of your mind. Now we have seen, I was talking to Chilcott on Twitter, now we have seen how little data they need to go ahead and just be like, all right, we're trying to shape this format into something very healthy, and power to them.
Yep.
I'm not criticizing that at all. That's what they need to be doing. But if you're sitting on cards that you think have any chance of getting nixed, probably unload them right now. I've got dig through times over here. No, the first thing I pulled up is Heart of Kieran's, and that's not something that's really hyper up for a band. But I'm sitting over here on these dig through times. Those are going through. Those are going ASAP. Sending those off into the void. They're in every deck that has blue.
That's what's problematic with these bannings is that like we expected the cat, we understand Leyline, but let's go ahead and talk about Oath of Nissa.
Yeah, let's go to it.
Because Saheeli here was the main contributing factor to Oath of Nissa's overuse. It was, drawing into the combo for them.
Yeah.
And their reason for getting rid of Oath of Nissa is that they're afraid that it's only going to promote more decks and 3-cost planeswalkers. And
hey, you know what that says to me, Jake, is that this card is dying for the sins of Oko.
Well, yeah, for sure. It is dying for the sins of Oko, and it's dying for the sins of Saheeli. And it was used in a lot of decks, but it's simply getting the ban hammer. I mean, if they're doing
it's a good card.
If they're doing these bannings once a week, why not ban the 2 big cards, Leyline and Cat,
sure, and
give Oath of Nissa a week. Give it a week.
Yeah.
If it's still the same thing going on, I mean, this is what scares me is there's a team of people that are there set out, and their goal is to aggressively ban cards. And so what's going to happen if the hive mind has like a gravitation towards some sort of deck, and a certain deck does well, puts up really good numbers at a tournament, when the community normally would have time to answer that type of archetype and see if it settles. Instead, a card is just going to get hit with a ban. It's a card that may have not even been problematic if you gave the format time to breathe.
Well, I think Arclight Phoenix would be a good example of this. If the last 2 weeks had been dominated by Arclight Phoenix decks before everybody, kind of slowly moved to, okay, we need some graveyard hate in the sideboard, obviously. And they had banned Arclight Phoenix, which I think is just a very good card, not a hyper-oppressive strategy, but has put up some good finishes and some top 8s. Suddenly we don't have an entire archetype, an entire deck in the format, which backs up what you're saying. But I don't think I agree with what you said about there's a group of people trying to aggressively ban cards. I mean,
they said that, though. They said we are going to be aggressively banning cards in the beginning of this format.
I think that they're trying to shape the meta. I'm not trying to be a Wizards apologist by any means. I mean, from a finance perspective, which I know nobody has any sympathy for at all, I just lost out on a couple potential dull hairs for my ley lines of abundance. However, I think that they do really want this to be a healthy format. I think Modern has grown beyond their control. I really do. And the more that they try and influence it, the harder it gets to control. And so with Pioneer, I really think this is the format that is going to be the healthiest. Jake, I play Standard. I'm a Standard lover. I don't play it right now because it's kind of boring. I'm kind of off Standard right now. And I'm the hugest advocate of Standard. And Pioneer has got my interest. Jake, I've installed MitGo. I'm learning MTGO, and I'm a huge let's just stay on the prettiest, most recent software. That's where I want to be. It doesn't matter. I'll ignore a format. But suddenly I'm like, well, I had a lot of fun playing Commander on it. I can reinstall it, still have my Commander decks, play those again, and play some Pioneer. I mean, they're pulling me into this. It's a good format. It's an open field.
But here's the thing: is that people aren't going to have confidence buying into it if they are aggressively banning cards. That's just the cut and dry of it.
Yeah,
because nobody wants to brew. Nobody wants to brew right now. That's what they're saying on Reddit. Nobody wants to do anything.
Right.
People are put off by it now. because they are afraid of buying into these decks. It's not like they're selling Khans of Tarkir and all of these Pioneer cards. These aren't just readily available sets. You have to seek these out. You have to buy these cards. So if you're trying to implement a new non-rotating format, then give it some time to breathe. Don't just aggressively ban cards because they put up numbers.
I have to agree with you a little bit on that, and that's a really good point. And actually, I think it's kind of a point in Wizards' favor that they are trying to have a format that is not based on the current booster packs that they're selling. I know that Wizards, I mean, I look at Twitter, I look at Reddit. Wizards gets a ton of shit for trying to pump their sets, trying to pump their formats where they're still selling boosters of it. They're not trying to sell boosters of this format. You're 100% right about that. And I think they want it to be a healthy thing. But the other side of that coin is, all right, give it a second to relax. Give a second for people to brew. I mean, Oko in Standard is a menace, but now just in the last couple weeks since the last Mythic Championship, people are starting to run main deck, Noxious Grasp, main deck Mystic Dispute. And while I think that's a whole nother can of worms to discuss and why that's not a healthy thing to have specific color targeted removal main deck, that's a sideboard card, obviously.
Yeah.
It is the meta responding to what is hyper playable right now. And it is, I mean, they're given Standard time to breathe. They have given Oko more time in Standard than they gave Leyline of Abundance, Saheeli Cat, and freaking Oath of Nissa in Pioneer. That's crazy. That's a little crazy.
Mainly, I think everybody would have been fine with a cat ban, and we could have even give Leyline a little bit of time. I mean, turn 3 Ulamog sounds absolutely oppressive, and I'm sure it would have had to go eventually.
Right.
But the Oath of Nissa ban, it's just an enabler. It was, I think it's a fair card. It's played a little bit in Modern, but it's not like insane in Modern.
Right.
And I just, with cards like Dreadbore at like a red-black deck, there's tons of cards that are going to answer Oko just perfectly on curve. And I get that Oko is kind of like a 2-for-1. You play it, and if you already have an artifact, now you have an elk. And so it's a lot to digest, but I think we should give the people, a list of cards that I think that they should probably have on their watch list, cards that Wizards probably has on their watch list, and then kick it to the comments. See, what do you guys think? Do you think that these bans are warranted? Do you think that it makes sense? Please let us know. Or are we right? Are we insane? Let us know that.
Yeah, watch out for the rest of our series and go check out the series, the videos of the series that have dropped of our Pioneer sleepers, because some of the cards that we picked as sleeper cards have now blown up. And also watch out for...
One's been banned.
Yeah, no kidding. Ridiculous. Also watch out in the coming week for a video of the cards that we think are the watch list cards for B&Rs, and you maybe need to unload if you already have them from a finance perspective, or not be building around them if you are coming from the brewer's perspective.
And we'll give you the Cliff Notes version right here. If it has been banned in a format, it is probably on their watch list.
Right.
So
I mean, that's what I said at the outset of the video. Saheeli Cat, Felidar Guardian. That card had to, that combo just was on their watch list from the beginning, and this B&R absolutely represents a full confirmation of that to me. We really appreciate everybody watching. Remember to hit like and subscribe if you're logged in. We love when you do that because it helps us grow. If you want to support us further, we got a Patreon. The description has the link for you. And don't forget, we are streaming twice a week over on Twitch. Jake, I'm tapped out. You got anything else?
Just eyebrow stuff, and I think about 30 or 40 copies of Oath of Nissa.
Yeah,
so.
I got Ley Lines of Abundance, you got Oath of Nissa, and the biggest thing that we can all remember is that Epstein didn't kill himself. Catch you later.